Heroes created by people's imagination live and commit their acts of bravery in our program, The Legend of Kazakhs. Legends are an invaluable cultural heritage passed down from generation to generation. Falling water is the most majestic phenomena of nature, and it has always fascinated man. The beauty of flowing and foaming streams is unique, and the crystal streams of water falling with its roar from a height are simply fascinating. It is impossible to tear yourself away from the contemplation of such a miracle. Burhan Bulak waterfall, located in Kazakhstan, has been famous for its power and beauty on the territory of the Jungarian Alatau since ancient times. A huge number of large and small creeks flowing from the surrounding glaciers merge into one raging stream, which swiftly rushes to the precipice and breaks down from a huge height. With a crash, the water splits against the stone thresholds. Small rainbows arising from sprays of water shimmer and sparkle as the rays of bright sun pass through them. Various legends talk about this miracle of nature, and we will share one of them with you now. Once on a cold and frosty morning, a merchant came to a distant village. His small, prickly black eyes carefully examined each and every yurt in the hopes of finding a generous buyer for his goods. His travel bags were full of jewelry, fabrics, spices, and sweets. The people's eyes flashed and lit up with such splendor, and the merchant only rubbed his hands together and said to himself, "I collect with one hand and I rake with the other." So he walked from yurt to yurt, and a lot of ringing coins were pouring into his purse. The greedy merchant counted his earnings and was pleased and serene, until one day he accidentally heard about the wonderful pitcher. Since that day he lost his peace and his sleep. At night he tossed from side to side on his silk pillows. He kept counting the golden coins that this pitcher could bring him, and the merchant decided to take possession of it no matter what. As soon as the night receded and the morning shone its light, the merchant went to the house where the honest and fair old man, Khan, lived with his son Kasim. As soon as the merchant stepped over the threshold of the yurt, he spread out his white, plump hands in greetings and spoke tenderly. "Let the hearth always be warm in your home. There will always be a lot of offspring to your herds. And to you, merchant, we wish you good trade. Come along and have a cup of fresh kumis with us," said the master of the house, Khan. "Thank you, master," the merchant replied. A tall and handsome young man bowed to the guests. "I've come here to get acquainted with such a respected person," the merchant began talking. "I've been to different places, and I've finally reached your place. And wherever I was, I always try to talk and hear from wise words of an intelligent person. Thank you for your kind words, but I am not a wise man, as I have never been one. But for every guest, I have a kind word and a flat cake." "Well, I'm not empty-handed. Take a gift from me as a sign of respect," the trader said, and he took out his leather-embroidered belt from behind his bosom. Khan bent his head, but he didn't take the present, and he thought that the merchant was too greedy to give such expensive gifts, and that he had only come to the house with some secret agenda in mind. "I do not deserve such gifts," Khan said with a smile. "How can you say that you don't deserve it? This is my thanks for your hospitality and food," cried the merchant. "And your kumis is so delicious. Only now since the morning I've been thirsty, so I've wanted a cold drink of water." "Kasim," said Khan, nodding to his grandson, "pour our guests some water." Kasim approached the standing pitcher and poured the cold water into the bowl. The merchant glared at the pitcher, but immediately took his eyes off of it so that no one would notice. He drank the water and exclaimed, "What delicious water you have! Where is the well from which you take it?" "My well, this jug," said Irshan, "and it's no secret that the whole village takes its water from there. The purest water flows inexhaustibly from it, and I got this jug from my father, and he gave it to me from his own, so he passed it on from our family for many, many years. Time will pass, and I soon will give it to my grandson, Kasim." "They are such fools," the merchant thought, biting his lips. "Such fools to have such wealth and to live in poverty. After all, in a drought, you can sell water for silver, and everyone will pay. They won't have any other choice. In many deserted lands I've been, and I know how much a drop of water costs. And if you spoil the water in the wells, they will buy it for gold as well." The merchant exhaled heavily, and his thoughts turned to his head. The merchant said, "It's a very good thing. I've walked around a lot, and if there was always water under my arm, it would be quite good. Sell this to me, father, this pitcher." The white-bearded man grinned and shook his head no. "Absolutely not. There is no way this pitcher can be sold." "I agree," exclaimed the crafty merchant. "For a small price you cannot sell it, but for a big one you can. I will shower you with gold. For many generations this wealth will suffice. Finally, your family will become rich and happy. People will remember you with kind words. Believe me, I know people. Yes, if only my life didn't depend on this jug, then I would have given it to you for free. But our whole village takes water from it. We have dry places, one well of everything, and the one with rotten water. Death awaits all of our cattle too, unless we have a pitcher." "Not everything, merchant, can be bought for money," Kasim proudly said, tugging his head. "You're right, young man," the merchant said, and added to himself, "You cannot buy. You can take it." "Well," continued the merchant, "I have to go." The merchant rose up and said his goodbyes and left the yurt. Anger was boiling inside of him. He could not reconcile that some poor people were not so compliant. The merchant didn't close his eyes all night long. He was still thinking about how to get that vicious old man and his stubborn grandson out of that yurt. And when the yellow moon began to slow melt, at last he came up with a plan. As soon as the early morning dawned and the white snow cover sunk into the fields in the rays of the cold sun, the merchant was leaving the village. He said to everyone that he was leaving the village and that now he would go further to the east. In the sight of all, the merchant left on his donkey, but he didn't go far. He stopped near the mountains and hid in the crevice. The merchant waited when the moon was peering out with silver stars flashing on the velvet sky, and he went back into the village. It was a quiet night, and the white snow reflected the moon, and it was light in the steppe, like early morning. Carefully, the merchant walked into the yurt of Irshan and his grandson, and he listened quietly. Only the sheep were bleating in their pens. He went to the paddock with the cattle, and he opened the entrance and began to grab the sheep, frightening them. The animals began to fight in their fright and ran out with a bleat, running across the steppe. The barking dogs brought even more noise. Then the clouds tightened the clear sky, and the icy wind rose and began to tear down the poor distracted animals with sharp gusts. Kasim jumped out of the yurt, followed by Irshan. They understood what was happening and rushed to the steppe to collect their flocks. A cunning merchant hid and waited until they were far from the yurt. A snowstorm rose, and snow began to spin, covering everything around. The merchant made his way to the yurt, and he grabbed the jug, put it under his bosom, and jumped out of the house. The merchant was in a hurry, and he walked quickly. His belt loosened and fell onto the snow, but he didn't notice it. He was in a hurry. The storm ceased, and the merchant quickly reached his hideout. It was cold and frosty, but his hot thoughts warmed the merchant more than a hot stove. Suddenly, he heard a long, plaintive wolf howl, and he stopped and looked around. He saw the pit trap and looked into it. The wolf clung to his powerful paws behind the friable walls of the pit, but he couldn't get out. He yelled furiously, and tears frozen. They turned into ice cubes glittering on his slanted eyes. "Oh, help me," the wolf croaked in a human voice. "I'm in a hole, but I have my small children waiting for me in my den. They will perish if I do not get out. Help me, you man." "Of course," cried the merchant, "but only another time. At the moment, I'm very busy. I have so much to do, so much to do. I have a valuable product in my jar, and I need to sell it faster." The merchant went on further. For a long time he rode, and he counted all the gold coins. But as soon as he would lose count, he would start all over again, and he decided to cut his way and not to go around the mountain range, but to go over it instead. He stopped in front of the high mountains and left his donkey, taking only sacks of goods and gold, and went through the thickets that blocked the way to the mountain. Suddenly, he saw a she-bear, crushed by a large fallen tree. She laid and cried pitifully. She couldn't get out. The merchant passed by, but she growled in a human voice. "Help me, man! Do not pass by! If I do not get out, then my young bears will die of hunger. They are still so small. Hold on." The merchant waved his hands. "I would have helped, of course, but another time. I'm in a hurry. Time will not wait for me." And the merchant went on. He climbed a rocky mountain along a narrow path and found himself at a deep crevice. He looked into it and saw a leopard. The leopard attempted to scramble up a stony rock, but the crevice was too deep. The leopard snarled when he saw the man. "Save me! I still have small leopards, and they will die without me. What is going on? Why do you all bother me? Help and help! Don't you see that I have no time? Am I crazy to spend my precious time on you? I need to trade my valuable commodity," the merchant cried angrily, and went on. Tired and cold, Kasim and Urashan returned to their yurt. They could not collect their own herd. The sheep fled across the steppe and froze. The oxacal dropped to his feet, and Kasim wanted to pour some water for his grandfather. He went to the pitcher and was astonished that there was no jug in its place. He searched the entire yurt, but he couldn't find it. And then they understood that that greedy and cunning merchant had stolen the jug. Kasim jumped out of the yurt and rushed to chase the thief, only he didn't know where to run. He heard from the people that the merchant was going to the east, so Kasim ran in one direction and then in another. The snow had filled up all the tracks and nothing was visible. Kasim stopped in desperation, and suddenly he saw something dark lying on the snow. He ran up and picked it up. It was the merchant's belt. No one in the village had something like this. And now the young man knew where the merchant had gone. But a lot of time was lost. The merchant had gone far, and it would be difficult to catch up with him. But the rage and anger carried this young man on the trail of the merchant. He ran through the steppe and heard a long howl. He stopped and listened, and saw a wolf in a pit. He asked for help from the wolf. "I'm in a hurry. A cunning merchant has stolen my jug, and the whole life of my village depends on it. Sorry, wolf, I do not have time. If you do not save me, my offspring will die." Kasim was about to leave, but then he began to feel sorry for the pups and decided to help the wolf. Kasim left the belt of the merchant near the pit, and he jumped to the wolf. A lot of time had gone before he rescued the wolf from the pit. "Thank you, human," growled the wolf. "Now my offspring will not perish. I saw this merchant and I remember his smell. Sit down on my back. I'll follow his trail. He will not leave us." Kasim sat on the back of the wolf. They rode faster than the wind. The wolf rushed up the high mountains, but he couldn't go on through the prickly thicket. He wouldn't make it. Kasim thanked him, and he entered the prickly thicket and the windbreak. He walked a few steps and he heard the roar of a bear. She was asking for help. I'm sorry, but I'm in a hurry, bear. I need to catch up with the greedy merchant. But young man, if you do not help me, then my little offspring will die of hunger. Have pity on me." Kasim just couldn't leave the bear in trouble, and he began to raise a tree that had crushed the bear. A lot of time and effort was spent by Kasim before he freed the she-bear. The bear then thanked the young man. "How can I help you, good man?" He told him about his misfortune. "Sit on my back, and I'll quickly make my way through this dense thicket and the deep snow, and we will catch up with this thief." Kasim climbed onto the back of the bear, and they quickly made their way through the windbreak. "That's it. I cannot go on," the bear howled. "You'll have to go on yourself. I cannot climb these steep rocks." The young man thanked her and began to climb the narrow mountain path. Near the deep crevice, he heard a long roar, and when he looked closely, he saw the leopard. "Help me out, man! Help me out of here! I cannot help you, I'm sorry. I'm in a great hurry. The life of my young children depends on you. They are all alone, and if I don't return, they will perish." Kasim realized that he needed to hurry, but he could not refuse the leopard. It took a long time until he got him out of trouble. The leopard thanked him, and when he found out where Kasim kept his way, he put him on his back and, skipping dexterously through the huge stones, he quickly found himself on top of the mountain. Then the Jigit saw the dark and fat figure of the merchant, and he rushed to him with his fists. The greedy merchant saw the Jigit catching up to him, so his soul went to the heels. He ran as fast as he could. He threw his bag of gold on the rocks and shouted, "Take everything! With this gold you can buy hundreds of flocks of sheep." Even more rage was rising in the chest of the young man. The merchant's feet then buckled with fear, and he fell on the sharp stones. Dropping from behind his bosom was the pitcher. It crashed, and it poured a powerful stream of water. The merchant tried to rise, but the stream of water with a roar dragged him away, and he flew into the abyss of sparkling splashes down the cliff. And on this place where the jug broke, a powerful river was formed, which falls from the rocks with a raging stream, and it spreads all over the valley. The old Oxacals say that in this way, this amazing waterfall with its water as sweet as honey appeared in the region. What is a waterfall from a scientific point of view? A waterfall is a drop of water from a ledge crossing a riverbed, formed by sharp changes in the bed of the river. A waterfall is usually called a place where water falls from a height above a meter, and they form very slowly. They vary in width, height, and amount of water. Starting with a small stream, the waterfalls end in tons of shimmering water. The Burhan Bulak waterfall is a magnificent one to see at any time of the year, but it is most impressive in July, when the glaciers start melting actively. Then the waterfall appears in all its power and grandeur. It is an almost inexhaustible source of energy, and the water dust saturated with phytosides of plants, which is always in excess of the waterfall, has a therapeutic effect on the human body. Within the zone of the waterfall, due to its special microclimatic conditions, a specific complex of plants, insects, and animals is formed. Perhaps that's why we can say that this waterfall is one of the miracles given to us by nature. Joly is the largest and the longest river in the territory of the Almaty region. Its origins are on the territory of China in the mountain system of the Tian Shan. The valley of the river is full of contrasts and surprises. Among the endless sand dunes, the river crumbles into the cleanest lakes, and then again rushes further and flows into Lake Balkhash. Many legends were composed by the Kazakh people about this amazing river. Tune in to the next program to learn more about it.